For years, the internet has had this one undisputed rule maker, a strict referee kind of keeping big tech in check. But what happens when that ref decides to just change the rules right in the middle of the game? Well, that is exactly what's happening in the European Union right now, and trust me, it's a massive deal for all of us.
See, for the longest time, the EU has played the role of the strict parent online. You know the one. Sets curfews, checks your homework, makes sure you're not sharing way too much personal info. But now, it's trying on this whole new identity. The cool uncle. The one who lets you stay up late and is kind of like, rules, they're more like guidelines. And this sudden personality change is right at the heart of a huge shift in digital privacy.
And just so you know, this whole explainer is based on a fantastic piece called The Great EU Privacy U-Turn by Norbert, or Bob, Gostische. So here's what we're going to do following his structure. First, we'll dig into why the EU is suddenly changing its tune. Second, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of what is actually changing. And finally, we'll keep score and see who really wins and who loses in this new game.
Now, to really get this, you've got to understand the EU's reputation. Thanks to these landmark laws like GDPR, they basically became the world's unofficial privacy police. If a tech giant even thought about getting a little too creative with your data, it was almost always the EU standing in the doorway, arms crossed, saying, nope, not happening. They really did set the global gold standard for protecting users.
Okay, so why the sudden U-turn? It's not because they finally decided those cookie banners were just too annoying. Nope. The real reason is a serious case of economic anxiety, and it's driven by a really powerful and, let's be honest, a very human emotion: the fear of being left behind.
And this bombshell quote right here comes from an incredibly influential report by the former Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi. He essentially stood up and warned EU leaders, we are regulating ourselves to death. And that was the wake-up call that sent total shockwaves through Brussels.
And that warning just tapped right into this deep-seated FOMO, a fear of missing out. The report basically argued that while the US and China are out there sprinting ahead in the AI race, European companies are stuck, drowning in compliance paperwork. The core fear is that if Europe doesn't loosen that regulatory leash, its economy is doomed to a slow agony, becoming a sort of digital museum, while everyone else builds the future.
So, facing this fear of becoming a digital museum, how do they plan to catch up? Well, the proposed solution is a new package of laws they're calling the Digital Omnibus. You can think of it like a legal bundle that's specifically designed to roll back some of those strict protections, all in the name of innovation. And it has 3 major changes you really need to know about.
All right, let's break these down. First up, we have the We Need It loophole. This would let companies use your personal data, we're talking your photos, your posts, to train their AI models without you explicitly saying yes, as long as they can claim a legitimate interest. Next, the cookie cleanup. And yeah, those super annoying banners might finally disappear. But the real goal here isn't your convenience. It's to make collecting data a whole lot smoother and more efficient for companies. And third, the safety delay. This one's a biggie. Crucial safety rules for what's called high-risk AI, think AI used in critical areas like healthcare or policing, are being pushed back potentially all the way to late 2027. So with changes this big, there are always going to be clear winners and clear losers. The key is figuring out who stands to gain from easier access to data and who's about to lose control over their own. Let's take a look at the scorecard.
Let's see how this shakes out. In the winners column, you've got the big tech companies like Google and OpenAI. For them, this is like winning the lottery. They get way easier access to high-quality European data to train their AI. European startups also get a boost because they can spend less time on compliance and more time actually building stuff. And of course, growth-focused politicians can claim a big win for the economy. Now, on the losing side, well, first and foremost, you, the user. It becomes much, much harder to just say no. And journalists, researchers, and all the privacy watchdogs who fought for these protections for years, they're basically watching their work get dismantled.
So, when you strip away all the policy debates and the economic reports, what does this actually mean for you? It really just boils down to a fundamental trade-off, one that's being made on your behalf.
And here it is, plain and simple. The deal on the table is that you are trading your personal privacy for the promise of economic growth. Your control over your data is being exchanged for Europe's chance to compete in the global tech race. It's a move that puts the EU's entire reputation as the world's privacy champion right on the line.
Which leaves us with the final, and maybe the most important question of all. Is that trade-off worth it? And how Europe answers that is going to define not just its economy, but its entire digital identity for years to come.